In Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, tensions rise between Ma Rainey, her ambitious horn player, and the white management determined to control the uncontrollable mother of the blues. I'm Rob Licuria, senior editor at Gold Derby, here with Ruben Santiago-Hudson, who wrote the film's screenplay. Ruben, when you tackle an August Wilson play, that ain't nothing to sneeze at. So talk us through how you came to adapt the late, great August Wilson's acclaimed play.
Well, I have a long relationship with August. I've done 2 of his plays. He's written 3 roles for me. I've directed in them. I've been in them. I studied them. I learned from August. He was a mentor as well as a friend. And so the first thing I have to take into consideration is, how do I honor him? How do I honor this great writer's work? And yet still somehow try to make not only a watchable film, but a great film. You're taking a great writer's work, and either you're going to stumble or you're going to fly. And I chose to do everything in my power to try to fly. And but first and foremost, you, in my opinion, I have to honor August. Of course, I got a company called Netflix. I got Denzel Washington in one ear, George C. Wolfe in another. And somehow in that equation, I have to find myself some joy and happiness. So it was a very not easy task, but a wonderfully rewarding task, and not an insurmountable task, obviously.
Yeah, you're right. Having Denzel Washington on one shoulder and George on the other, what a team! And then you're writing these words that originally came out of August Wilson's brain, and it made me realize that you're also an accomplished director and actor. You're recognizable to people. You've been on screens for such a long time. In addition to being a playwright and film writer, I'm wondering how your experience as a performer and also as a director enhances your writing.
Well, one great thing about it is I play every role when I'm writing. If I write a scene and I want to hear how it sounds, I do it. And I'll play Ma Rainey, and I'll play Dusty May, and I'll play Sylvester and Levy. I'll play them all. I understand August's rhythms intimately. I understand the way these people do things, the way they sound, or he would never have cast me in those plays or asked me to direct them. So I can actually hear that scene very, very clearly and see where the rhythms meet, the music of the mellifluous nature of his sounds, and the connections with the actors. I can actually do that. So that's helpful in that respect as an actor. As a director, as a writing, I'm looking at it the way I see it clearly and visually as a director as well. So when I give the product to George, of course, he's going to put his touch on it and his vision, because he's an extraordinary director with a great eye and huge brain for seeing things and figuring out things. So he'll add his touch to it. And of course, Denzel, who is I don't know too many people in the world that know filmmaking any more adept at it than Denzel Washington. And so, they all add their touch, but first August has to give us the island. He has to give us the island to live on. And then I have to build that house on the island for us to get inside and be protected. And then they do what they want to do with it. So, can help me and also get in my way that I wear a lot of hats in real life,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it also reminded me that the movie to me felt so immersive, and it's not just because of the amazing costumes and sets and the music and the performances, but the words. The words to me were really striking, because it made me conscious of how people spoke, their language, their cadence back in 1920s Chicago. How conscious are you of making sure that is as authentic as possible?
Let me be very, very clear with you. The people that he wrote in these plays are the people that I lived with all my life in Nanny's rooming house. I was an adopted child, and I was raised in a rooming house. A rooming house in the Black community is where people that have nowhere to go. When people are traveling to find jobs in different cities live. And the people that lived in my rooming house stayed there forever. Very few of them were transient. So this was my family, these people. The gentlemen that he wrote in this play sound exactly like the people that I woke up and had breakfast with every morning at a counter in the restaurant that was in front of the rooming house. So that's how August and I bonded, because the first time I auditioned for him, he wrote down on a yellow pad, same music I have, same song. He was referring to the way I spoke. And he showed that to me when I finally booked the play. which was 7 guitars, which eventually, did a great run on Broadway, and I was awarded a Tony Award for that performance. But, anybody in that production could have won the Tony Award, to be honest with you. They were all extraordinary. But that language that I knew that was a part of my life is all August writes in all of his plays. So it's easy for me to adapt to it. It's not so easy for people that don't know that language. These are Southern colored people, Southern Black people, they call them colored men, that moved north. The only thing that changed was the location. Their ways, their style, their sensibilities, their music, their dance, the way they courted, the way they dressed and leaned, stayed the same. And in the movie, I showed that with Levy. When you see him in Chicago the first time, he's still country. He's got on a jacket that's nice and pants that's nice, but they're from different suits. So he is, and when you read the script, it says country boy clean. I said, Levy stands on the corner and quotes country boy clean. And now, I know that's my language. I mean, the way I say things, but I don't change the way I speak and the way I write. Like when I talk about people coming to the tent, I said, they fly into the tent like flies to stink. Like flies to stink. That's a real boy thing, and so I don't try to explain the colloquial nature of the way we speak is Northern colored people, Northern Black folks, because we're all from the South. So and if people don't understand it and they say we didn't understand that, then I'll talk to them on the phone and say this is what I meant.
Yeah, it's mesmerizing the way that they spoke. And speaking of mesmerizing, Chadwick Boseman. I mean, he passed away during post-production of the film, which is so sad, and a lot of us are still, sad about that. But it's fitting that he left us with such an extraordinary performance as part of his legacy. And I just wonder, what did you think, obviously, about the way he breathed life into Levy, the character that you wrote?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't give that a lot of thought. I just gave so much thought to the contribution that this young man made to the world, not just through his art, but through his being, through his humanity, through his sensibility, through his responsibility of who he is as an African-American man. I met Chadwick as a younger man. I met him when he sat in tech rehearsal in the theater on Broadway in the dark, and I walked up to him and said, "Hey, man," and I could feel this thing about him. Who knew what would eventually happen to him? But I knew that he was a man with a purpose, a young man who knew exactly who he was and what his responsibility was to not only theater or the art or film or cinema, but his responsibility to his community. It was easy to see. And I eventually hired him to come when I was recording all 10 of August Wilson's plays at the Green Space at WNYC in New York. I brought him in. And by then he was doing films. He didn't have to come in there for that little bit of money and be a part of that. He wanted to be a part of it. So when I invited him, he said, "When do I have to get there?" So you knew that he had purpose. And so we are tremendously blessed in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. We are tremendously blessed in the cinema world, in the theater world, that he existed and that he continues to exist through his incredible body of work. The integrity is impeccable. The purpose is in the skill and the craft is just absolutely amazing. And I think we're fortunate, all of us, that he walked this earth with us.
Yeah, and I still can't believe he's gone. And then speaking of performances, Viola Davis delivers such a stunning performance in the film. I can't get that final shot of her in the car out of my head because it pans into her face while Levy is holding a bloodied Toledo in his arms. What emotions did those two shots, and particularly her face, trigger for you as the man who wrote the scene?
Burden. Ma Rainey was holding on to her power base, which is her dynamics is this thing that God gave her, this voice and this opportunity to share her stories through song. And once the white people took her stories through song, they took her power and they put it in the machine. And now she had to relinquish that moment that made her matter in the world. And I'm not just talking about Black Lives Matter, because we've been always trying to tell people Black Lives Matter. Since when they snatched us and threw us on a boat, we mattered. So the thing is, at that moment, she has released in, the one thing that you can't bottle and you can't can and you can't teach. It was her power that God gave her. And she gave it to somebody else. Now she didn't have it anymore. And the burden of the world that she had been carrying, knowing that her mortality, as far as in the music business and as an entertainer, was waning to a certain degree. She didn't record anymore after 28. She recorded 100 songs between 23 and 28, and that was it. Then she went and ran her theaters and cleaned her mansions and took care of her community. So she felt that burden. Did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? You know, and while Levy is feeling the burden of knowing he did the wrong thing, who I struck out to, I couldn't reach. I struck out and hit the thing that was closest to me. I hurt me. I killed me. And then we see, you know, the end of it. You know, that is like, you know, there's a line that comes in early in the play when Sturtevant says that trumpet player, is he going to be here? And that end of it lets you know why he asked that question. It wasn't like random. It was cunning. It was business. It was what has happened to African American culture since day one, since we've been here, from whether it was playing spoons to, you know, tap dancing or whatever it was. That looks good. That looks great. That's marketable. Let's take it.
Yeah, and it still is, and it has so much important things to say about cultural appropriation. Ruben, congratulations on a wonderful movie, and thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate you. Thank you.